Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report, and today we have returning to our presence Eliyahu Berkowitz, a dear friend of the Jerusalem Connection, a prolific writer, a man of deep knowledge and insights regarding the Hebrew text, as well as what is going on in the world today. He resides in Israel, just to remind you all. And we wanted to have Eliyahu on again because he's really been developing a ton of content. He has a new book out that we want to share and talk about, as well as some other channels and outlets where he will be preparing longer teachings and insights that have a broad reach into both the Jewish and Christian world so we can come together in solidarity and like-mindedness. Eliyahu, welcome to the program. Please update us on what's going on and your latest productions and publications.
Thanks so much. I'm still working at Israel 365 News, which used to be Breaking Israel News. I'm still writing articles about Geulah, the redemption, the end of days. I'm getting a lot less pushback because 9 years ago when I started writing, everyone thought I was crazy and everyone said, oh, this always happens, nothing's new. And nowadays people are realizing that we are in the end of days. It's coming at us like a freight train. No one questions since COVID, since the wars in Ukraine, and now in our region, no one's questioning. So I'm trying to focus, which is difficult with my ADHD, but I'm trying to focus on putting out content. Just to give you this is the return of the Red Heifers. It's actually, I've been covering the Red Heifers. The Temple Institute has had the project for about 12 years, but about 2.5 years ago, or a year and a half ago, no, 2.5 years ago. Gosh, now I can't remember.
I know, I'm trying to remember too.
September 2022. There was an organization called Bona Israel, and they actually went to search for, and they found 5 red heifers that fit the biblical requirements, meant perfectly red with no white hairs, which is incredibly rare. And they found them from devout ranchers who were specifically raising red heifers for the temple. And they brought them to Israel, which was a massive undertaking, and it defied logic and everything. And they brought them to Israel, and the 5 red heifers are now in Shiloh. And
where did they bring them from?
They brought them from, they were in Texas.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they were in Texas. And they put out ads in rancher magazines that said, we're looking for a red heifer. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, there are a lot of devout ranchers in Texas who were very interested. And it just happened. One of the disqualifying things is a mum, a blemish, a scar. And when calves are born, they put in an ear number, and that disqualifies them. And because of COVID, they didn't get ear numbers because the person who did that, was supposed to do that, was in quarantine. So thanks to COVID, we have 5 kosher red heifers. Yeah. They don't have ear numbers, and they're in Shiloh. They're lovely, lovely animals. And what's beautiful about that is Bona Israel is actually an organization of Christians and Jews working together to do a lot of projects. They also had to purchase the land on the Mount of Olives where the red heifer ceremony. The red heifer is not a sacrifice or an offering. It's a ritual to produce the ashes that are used to purify people from ritual impurity. So it's not even done on the Temple Mount or in the temple. The ritual is performed on the Mount of Olives, and they bought the land. And what's really amazing, it was Jews and Christians working together. And I try not to dictate to Christians, because this whole thing of joining with Israel, it's challenging for them theologically, especially when it comes to things related to the temple. Christians struggle with it theologically, and I'm letting them struggle with it and work it out. They'll find the answers. Yeah, I mean, as a Jew, I've got to do what God told me to do. He told us to do the red heifer, and we don't have the privilege or right of walking away from what God told us to do. And that's what we've been doing since Mount Sinai, and that's what we did. Christians are a different story. For them, it's entirely voluntary. And it's challenging, and I appreciate the challenge that they're going through.
So tell us a little bit about what your book entails. What is it covering? I mean, is it explaining just the origin of the biblical origin of it and how it's manifesting today, and the story of how these heifers get to Israel and how they're being taken care of?
That's exactly what the book
Okay.
entails. Byron Stinson was, I don't know if he runs Bona Israel, but he was the big initiator to get the heifers here. He wrote a book that details all the efforts that were required to bring them here. My book covers it from the Jewish perspective, all of the what we call the halacha, the laws, which are it's the Rambam Maimonides says it's the most enigmatic commandment in the Bible. It's impossible to understand. It's what we call a chok. A chok is a Torah commandment that transcends logic. So I go into the details of the halacha, its biblical origins, what the sages teach us about it, also the challenges that came up in modern times. There are challenges and there are solutions. For example, this is the first time since Mount Sinai that a red heifer is being done without the ashes from the previous red heifer. So it creates a challenge. They had to transport them without putting ear numbers in, and that proved a legal challenge. So they found a way to insert RFID chips under the skin in a way that would not leave a mark.
Interesting.
So yeah, so these are at the conference we were talking about how to get them to the Mount of Olives without going through the synagogue. Someone suggested a helicopter. And if they don't actually, if these heifers prove to be not kosher, they're looking into gene manipulation, genetic manipulation. So there are solutions that have never been encountered before, and there are difficulties that have never been encountered before. So this is probably going to be true for every step of the way for the third temple. There are, of course, political challenges, which I kind of think God's going to work them out. Syria just disappeared. The Abraham Accords just suddenly appeared. I think politics is not the big problem. Like God says, return to me and I'll return to you. I think if we start making the steps, that's going to go away. But we have to do our due diligence when it comes to making it proper. And people have asked, why haven't they done it yet? And there have only been 9 red heifers in history. According to Jewish tradition, the 10th red heifer is going to purify the nation of Israel in order to receive the Messiah, in order to begin the temple service for the end of days, for the third temple. So they're incredibly rare. One red heifer could literally purify billions of people. So they're not going to do it kind of. They're gonna it's going to be 1,000. When they do it, it's going to be 1,000% from every different direction. No questions can be asked. It'll be done properly, and that's why it hasn't been done yet.
And I apologize, I don't know this in advance, but your book's available on Amazon, right?
My book is available on Amazon. Return of the Red Heifers.
I'll share the links.
Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, Paving the Road to Redemption. Redemption in Hebrew is Geulah. Mashiach doesn't quite do it for us because there's a lot of kinds of Mashiach means anointed, and you anoint utensils, you anoint things for the temple. So it's not meant as a derogatory dig at Christians and their belief in the Messiah. It's just we're working towards redemption, like that's coming out of Egypt. I'm coming back to Israel. We're not necessarily, and as a direct result, the Messiah is going to show up, and then we'll find out who was right. And I have a feeling we'll all be right. So
I like that perspective.
Yeah,
I do really treasure the fact that you and the other folks in these organizations are willing to work together, even despite theological differences. It's just, I just find it really interesting to watch. I love reading your posts on Facebook. Sometimes it's your articles on Israel T65, which are usually very focused and powerful. But you also interview interesting people, and you just post commentary, whether it's about what's going on in American politics, which is usually pretty informative to us Americans, or what's going on in Israel. There's just so much information that you're able to share on those platforms.
Oh my gosh. It's when I first got hired 9 years ago, Tuli hired me. I really needed the job. And Rabbi Tuli Weiss, he said to me, I want you to write about redemption and prophecy. And I'm like, every day? And he's like, yeah. And there have been, I think, 2 days that I could probably count them on 2 hands, the days that I couldn't see something from a redemption perspective.
Amazing.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I was just reading, oh, they discovered that there used to be water on Mars. And then if you look at it, you'll find, okay, storehouses of water stored up for the end of days. It's like you can't unsee it. And it's becoming more and more common, even more and more mainstream. Like I was very impressed that after October 7th, in Israel, the politicians are very careful which side they stand on, whether it's Jewish state or just Israel. And they don't want to get too religious. And the whole reason why the International Criminal Court of Justice put Netanyahu on trial was because he said, we're fighting Amalek. And that's genocide. They declared Netanyahu guilty for wanting to wipe out Amalek. That's kind of our government is. I think everyone in Israel. There's been a huge resurgence of religion in Israel. One of the most sought after items are the fringes we wear under our shirts. They have special ones made for soldiers. It's camouflage green. It's a mesh, so it's much cooler. And they have pockets in the corners, so you can put the fringes in the pockets, so they don't get caught in underbrush or whatnot, get tangled up when you're in action. But even non-religious soldiers are snatching them up. And I was told that there are units, they make sure that at least one guy in the unit has a set of tefillin so that they can all put it on if they want to. It's really, there's a big resurgence. And it's a good thing. Part of the reason is because when the IDF went into Gaza, they found that almost every house had a picture of the Dome of the Rock. The October 7th, they referred to it as the Aqsa flood. The Hamas and Hezbollah both said that the reason why they attacked Israel was because of the Red Heifers. Yeah, which is crazy. Well, actually not. They said the Jews are going to build the third temple.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, even they know something.
They know something. Well, they say they called it Al-Aqsa flood, and the symbol of Hamas has the Dome of the Rock on it. And they call it Al-Aqsa. But Al-Aqsa is actually the black mosque. Right. It's the black dirt. So they call it Al-Aqsa, but they don't even recognize Al-Aqsa. They can't identify it. Right. But they know that that's what it's about. They want to stop us from bringing the third temple. And a lot of soldiers are like, well, if that's what I'm fighting for, bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that seems to be what everybody from Amalek forward, whether it's in Israel or in the diaspora, is the goal is to stop God's plan. God's people executing God's plan. That's it. And that's why Christians need to understand the importance of Israel and the Jewish people, because there's a lot of heresy in the Christian world, replacement theology, and that the Jews are out of the picture. It's just terrible. It led to so much Christian-based anti-Semitism, which is still out there. It led to the Holocaust. But Christians need to understand that the greatest demonstration that Israel and the Jewish people are actively engaged in God's plan is because of the target that is on Israel and the Jewish people by the nations.
Yeah, I've also found that when it comes to issues of the temple and the difficulties for Christians, the term temple of the Antichrist keeps coming up. And all of my knowledgeable Christian friends who really understand Christian theology, they try to interview them, even though I'm an Orthodox Jew and our website is all Orthodox Jews. But they say, oh boy, is that a misunderstanding. Apparently applying the concept of the temple of the Antichrist to the Jewish temple in Jerusalem is precisely wrong. And it tends to come from like just a total uneducated segment of the Christian society. Yeah. Also, the rapture is largely misunderstood, and it's steeped in anti-Semitism. So I'm working. And
there's no agreement in the Christian world, evangelical and otherwise, about the rapture, if it's happening, when it's happening, if and when it's happening.
Right. And it's like we are clearly in the end of times. Clearly. There's no question. If you didn't get that message when Israel became a state, and if you didn't get it in 1967 when we went up to the temple,
got Jerusalem.
If you didn't get the message then, I don't know what's going to give you the message.
Right.
But we're there. And when it comes to reporting on prophecy, what's interesting is I don't ask if, and I don't even ask what is going to happen. The big question is, where do you stand on it? And that's like, Israel is the litmus test, even for the Jews, not just for Christians. Where you stand on Israel is the litmus test. Are you for or are you against? You've got to, I can't figure out any way to see how being against can mean that you're on the good guy team for the end of days.
You and me both. And then the thing is, just like you mentioned before, as far as the details, I mean, I'm not an expert on eschatology, Christian or Jewish. I mean, I follow different theories, and I hang my hat on my Jesus Christ. I don't hang it on the theories. However, I look at them with an open mind, and that could happen, and this could happen, and I definitely value the Jewish input, because who else is the expert? The Jewish people wrote the scriptures and know the language the best and preserve it. Who else to learn from than those folks? You see these Christian seminaries that have these professors of Hebrew, and they're from like Kansas, and they're raised in a Baptist
Well,
church, and it's like you might have good insights, but if you really want, I don't know, just a firsthand insight.
there are very, very few Christians who understand the Jewish sources,
I agree.
but the ones who do, wow. There's Pastor Brad. Gosh, I wish I could remember. I call him Rabbi Brad. He wrote the Newer Testament, where
Okay.
he actually retranslated the New Testament. But he speaks Greek, he speaks Aramaic, he speaks Hebrew. He's
Wow.
unbelievable. There's also Joe Good, who knows all of the Talmud and Mishnah sources for the Third Temple. He's amazing. There's very few of them. Well, I'm sure there's one or two more, but not much
Mhm.
more.
Exactly.
From the Jewish side, my struggle is to get Jews to open up the door, to become a light unto the nations. I think a lot of Christian anti-Semitism came from the fact that we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. And the fact is, we couldn't do what we were supposed to do, which was to be a light unto the nations, until we returned to Israel. But now that we're here, we have to open up the doors. A lot of Jews are reluctant because of the difficult history between Jews and Christians. I'm trying to convince them to open up the doors and be a light. There are two things required for that to happen. One is Christians have to drop replacement theology, which actually it's replacement theology sounds simple, and it's actually what we call deep in the kishkas. It's embedded in Christianity so deeply that to weed it out is a massive effort. And as a result of it, rejecting replacement theology, they have to stop proselytizing to Jews, which is a difficult thing to ask Christians to do because it's hardwired into Christianity. Proselytizing is actually forbidden according to Jewish law. From the Jewish side, I need them to be open, and that's difficult. So I can request from my Christian friends. One of the reasons why I'm teaching all this to Christians, I believe strongly in Psalm 126. I want Christians to embarrass Jews, to walk up to Jews and say, "What are you doing in America? Why? Have you heard about the Red Heifer? Can you teach me about the Red Heifer?" I want the Christians to embarrass the Jews so much that the Jews step up and do what we're supposed to do. That's what I'd really like.
Wow. Wow. It's a beautiful quest, and I certainly am behind you, because I find I learn just so much from folks like you and rabbis that have social media sites and explain the Hebrew of something, whether it's a psalm or something in the Torah, that I just can't find anywhere else. And I'll look for those other pastors you mentioned, for more of those insights. You
Oh,
have
Mark,
your,
Mark Biltz. I apologize. Mark Biltz, Pastor Mark Biltz.
I think
He's also, I just interviewed him. I interviewed him, right. He interviewed me about my new book, but he's so brilliant. He was explaining to me that Jesus used the red heifer because Jesus was very involved in the temple.
That's
Every
right.
time he healed a leper, he had to use the red heifer to be purified, which is difficult for Christians to hear. So I kind of knew it instinctively, and he kind of slammed it home, along with a lot of other teachings about how Christians are going to play a part in the third temple,
Wow, I'd love to
which
talk to him too.
I recommend it. He's awesome. He's
Because
awesome.
I have heard too many pastors, even pastors that are, pro-Israel and don't assign or talk about replacement theology in any other way other than it might be baked into some other philosophies, but the idea of just that there is no more temple and that Jesus has nothing to do with the temple. And I'm like, it's all in this, it's in the Christian Testament, it's in there too about.
And he explained. I asked him, so are Christians going to take part in the third temple when it's built 20 years from now? He said, well, we should have been taking part of it when it was built 1,000 years ago, but we stopped it. And I was like, whoa. He's really, and he comes from, like I said, he's brilliant. He's brilliant beyond words. You know, he's dealing with terabytes and I'm dealing with kilobytes. He's just really.
Well, I'd love
keeping
to
up with
track
things.
him down and talk to him as well for the Jerusalem Connection audience.
Highly recommend it.
So I wanted to talk to you also. So we have your book and you're on Israel 365. Now, what other outlets are you pursuing to get more of these teachings out there that we can share to make sure that our channel is aware of? You've got YouTube going on,
in my
right?
spare time. I have my YouTube channel. I'll send you the link to it. It's Wrestling the Angel, which is Jacob wrestling with Esav, me wrestling with my Christian twins. This meeting between Christians and Jews, it's high impact, and I believe in total transparency and honesty, which is not always easy or pretty, but that's why I tend to do long format interviews about issues of interest to people like that, both of Christians and of Jews. Also, I do a Substack. I'm also fairly active on Facebook, though I got totally banned by Mark Zuckerberg and had to open up a new account. I'm still recovering. I'm a little bit scattered. I'm a boomer, so I'm not quite savvy enough, but I try to focus on my YouTube and on my Substack and on my Facebook, as well as write for Israel 365. And today I just got the green light for a new book. Called Signposts, which is going to be all the signposts that I've seen on the road to Geula.
That's amazing. So what's your timeline for that? What's your timeline?
Well, once I get the green light, I'm not giving too much time. I'll probably finish the first draft in a month, and then it'll probably take another month and a half to put it out.
Wow,
so
this is quick. You got quite the team.
We have a team. The Red Heifer was like, to get the team together. The Red Heifer also was like, I had to write it because it's happening. And it was crazy is I spoke to the people there. There's far more interest coming from Christians than from Jews. And I think that's just because
more of them?
What?
There's more of
No, it's because even though it's challenging for Christians, it's also challenging for Jews, because Orthodox Jews, they're in a groove. They don't want to shake things up and go out of their comfort zone. And the third temple most of the Bible is surrounded about the temple and about even agriculture, bringing agriculture to the temple. It's not all about slaughtering animals. It's a lot of grain offerings. It's the feasts. I won't be able to sit at home comfortably anymore on the feasts. I'll have to go to Jerusalem. There's a lot of things involved that'll pull us out of our comfort zone. So there's much more interest amongst the Christians because they can pretty much keep doing what they're doing and then go to the temple when they want to. But Jews are required. We're going to be Kohanim in the temple, serving as Kohanim for the nations. And the Kohanim go up and we go almost up. So Jews are kind of holding back on it, which is again, I want the Christians to embarrass them and get them involved.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. So,
well, we're excited for this new book, Signpost. So keep us posted on that. We'll have you back on to share its release. Yeah, sure. Hopefully that'll be available everywhere as well. Well, Eliyahu, we just love that you could take time out to talk to us. And we are going to have in our write-up on YouTube and on our socials the links so everybody can find you.
Thank God.
Amazon
and
books.
If you read the book and you like it, please leave an Amazon review. That helps me out a lot. If you haven't read the book yet, please read the book.
Yes.
I think at the very least, it's Bible learning.
Right.
And things are definitely moving forward. I'm running out of my house in a little bit for for the Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembering of soldiers, terror victims. It's very important for me and my family. My wife was a terror victim and was mamash. She was saved by a miracle. That's in my other book, Master of Return and the 11th Light. That's about living in Gush Etzion, in the Judean hills and serving God and watching holy people get murdered.
Wow.
So we're always busy here. And Yom Ha'atzmaut, day after Independence Day, and this will be the second Independence Day where we're fighting for our survival again.
Well, we're all praying for you, that's for sure. We're praying for Israel, we're praying for the Jewish people and all Israelis. And we're, at the Jerusalem Connection, we're also mindful of what Jewish people around the world are experiencing because they're not getting sympathy or compassion.
I feel old when I see what's happening because I never thought I'd live to see pre-war Germany again.
That's exactly there's no other way to put it, and so many people are just in denial about this repeat of history. You can put news clips like side by side from the 30s to today, New York, colleges, Paris, anywhere.
It started in the German universities. It started with BDS shutting down Jewish businesses, and then it went to putting Jews in smaller and smaller places, such as, no, you can't live in Judea, you can't live in Gaza, you can't live any of the Arab countries, you can only live in this tiny piece of beach around Tel Aviv. And now that we have you all concentrated in one small place, okay, I have a question. Were you at the Washington rally right after October 7th?
Yes.
God bless you. I spoke to Shelley about it. From what I understand, the American Jews were feeling incredibly threatened and scared. The Christians formed a ring around them and protected them from all the angry mob. And that's what we need. That's what we need.
So Shelley and I are part of the American Christian Leaders for Israel, which Susan Michael from the ICEJ, she sort of started that about 10 years ago. So I think it was Monday, October 9th, we had a Zoom call, and it was what can we do? What can we do? Not just like write letters and other kind of activist things, but what can we do to really engage our Jewish community here, as well as support Israel in this time of what we knew the war was coming. I mean, on the 9th, it was just still, the IDF was just trying to secure the Gaza envelope. But, we were going to plan some sort of event in DC to demonstrate the amount of Christians that are here for our Jewish friends and neighbors. And then we heard the JFNA, I think it was going to organize this rally for November. And so we came in alongside them and said, look, we're not going to take over. We just want to know what can we do to bring as many Christians as possible. So our sort of marketing campaign for those 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks was to make sure that as many people from the Christian community around the country, around the world, could get there and literally, like you said, stand beside them, in front of them, around them, so that there was a feeling of we're not alone, right? We're not alone, which was...
That was essential. That was so important. And it's still important. Unfortunately, what we're seeing, as I said, the question is, where do you stand when it comes to God and Israel? And tragically, a disturbing number of Jews are failing that test. And even Jewish organizations, which used to be the bastion, the pillars of the Jewish community, like the Anti-Defamation League and AIPAC, they're waffling and they're failing. And it's really scary.
Oh, there's entire Christian, I call them Christian organizations. Some of them are churches or label themselves as churches, where they're going all out after Israel. I mean, just repeddling from the pulpit these ideas of genocides and ethnic cleansing and humanitarian crisis, and those in the West Bank are suffering, and it's all Israel's fault, without ever even mentioning like October 7th or the hostages or the thousands.
Without ever checking their facts.
Right. So I mean, that's one of the things that I watch carefully, and I did a letter writing campaign last week. About 19 organizations that are repeddling. They're not going to listen to me, but I called them out I wrote out the stuff in their movies that they were pushing that were factually incorrect. I gave them the links to the data that corrects the record and what the lack of context, and I'm not sure I'm going to get a response, but after I give them some time, I'll probably do an op-ed to just let the world know. So
God bless you. You see, Israel's going to be fine.
Well,
we're going to be... I mean, after the dust settles, Israel's going to be here. There's no question.
No, but
We
to your
waited.
point, which side, and this is what I tell Christians,
Yeah,
which side are you
yeah,
going to be on? Because I
yeah.
might not understand all the details and how they play out, but I tell you this much, and I'm not going to argue with people about these details if I don't know them and haven't studied them like you have, but I will say I'm on Israel's side, I'm on Israel's side, I'm on Israel's side.
Even when I know the details, it's really we're not arguing accuracy, but it's a belief and it's a paganism because there's nothing you can say that will sway them because they've bought into this reality and this belief system, which is a lie. I mean, just saying, oh, these many Palestinians were killed. You think the IDF is some kind of army of magicians that can only kill women and children? Take that number and tell me how many of them were actually armed terrorists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
Or
will
you're
never
going to
say that.
take your news from Hamas's, what is that, Ministry
Right,
of Health
right,
or
right,
something that's literally your source. So,
right. None of it makes sense. And even when they say, for example, Israel bombs them. Really? Okay, so they have hundreds of miles of hardened tunnels. How come Hamas doesn't open up the door and let the Gazans in? Then none of the Gazans would die. But the reason why the Gazans are dying is Hamas,
exactly.
plain and simple.
Exactly. And any of the issues in what is called or identified on the public realm as the quote unquote West Bank, those issues are because of what the terrorists have done that require certain security measures to be in place. I mean, even after October 7th, I had a talk with Paul Calvert this week. Even after October 7th and all of the, I guess it's called chatter coming out of the Ramallah and Jenin and all these other places, at Ramadan, Israel still gave huge amount of permissions and busloads of Palestinians or Arab Muslims to go into Jerusalem and celebrate
Hmm.
their holiday and do what they need to do. And that doesn't get coverage.
I don't debate. I'm not very good at it, and there are people who are much better at it. I love Yishai Fleischer. He's amazing. God should give a huge blessing to what's the name of the British journalist? Douglas Murray.
Yes, yes, yes.
And he's
His
like
way of
he's
articulating facts just
and he's on the ground and he's since the very beginning he's been on the ground. I don't debate. I'm no good at it and I really don't like it and I don't want to try to convince someone that they're taking drugs. That's not my job. But if
yeah,
someone comes to me and they want to be blessed by blessing us, oh my gosh, do I want to reach out to them? Oh my gosh, do I want to sit with them?
it's wonderful.
Wouldn't
It's
that
beautiful. It's beautiful what you do and what you've dedicated your life to do, and we're excited to be the recipients of what the output is that you produce in those efforts. Eliyahu, I'm glad we had this discussion, and I can't wait to have you back on and
anytime that I'm not
doing 6,000 things and saving the world.
gosh. By the way, I just wrote an article today. Shocking. There is now a Muslim guy claiming to be the Muslim Messiah, what they call the Mahdi. And he's reaching out to Christians, saying that, he comes he I think it's like he said Paul lied and he's the second coming of Jesus. And he actually sent his people to churches, Catholic churches all over the world to say he's the new Pope. So
Interesting.
it's not just Israel. It's happening all over the world. Everyone's getting it. And the question is, which side do you stand on?
Yeah, we were warned. We were warned that many will come in my name. We were warned.
Go.
Paul
One
told us
more.
people are going to lie.
One more. This guy is clearly, and just looking at him gives me the creeps. He's a very scary dude.
Ugh.
But yeah, but these are the times we're living in.
And was that posted in Israel 365?
It'll be posted tomorrow in Israel
Okay.
365.
I'll share the link. Folks can sign up for that email blast. I know I get that email blast, so I see them when like the newest releases come out. I think it's twice a week or so those come out. So I can't remember, but it's a great news source for sure. Thule Weiss is an amazing individual. I've met him a few times in
Yes.
person, so
Yes.
it's been great. But again, Eliyahu, thank you. I know this evening is a solemn one with the services that are being held for the Memorial Day of the soldiers. So
Thank God. Thank God.
thank you again.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much.